Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's Sunday Q&A. I wonder if we need a more snappy title for Sunday Q&A. You know, kind of like, it's Sunday morning, it's 6:30, it's time for... It was Crackerjack, wasn't it? Or something, you know, like Q&A it all, or Q&A time, or... There you go, answers on a postcode. Or put them in the comments, might be easier, to be honest with you. Would be nice to have a snappy title, probably won't happen. Right. Oh, right. Starting this one off, Tony Stark, presumably not the Tony Stark. Well, presumably the Tony Stark. Yeah. Sorry, mate. You probably get that all the time. He says, "I'll give you a tip, mate. When you're talking to the camera, look into the lens. I'm guessing you're looking at yourself on the screen." You are 100% right, Tony. I had a chat with Nick at London Creative about this. And the thing is, the screen blocks out into squares. I've just noticed that. And I said, is there a way around it? Is there some kind of, you know, like a little circle or something you can put around the camera? London Creative, by the way, has got his own channel. Please check him out. He helps me out a lot with this kind of stuff. He said, yeah, it's called a Post-it note. Or one of them little arrows, you know, you get them little arrows things. Because I'm really struggling, but my eyes are naturally... Anyway, this has got nothing to do with Theory Exchange. So. But yeah, I'll try. That's a good tip. I will try to get the hang of that. I might try and get a little Post-it note, just stick it. He says, once you've done it 3 times, you forget, and you just automatically look at the side of the phone. Maybe there's a way that I could actually turn the screen off. This is not relevant. Right, let's get into it, shall we? Right, I've done one. The thing we're doing on the 11th hour, a load of you have done contributions on the 11th hour. I've already done one follow-up video. I'm going to do another, just because there's so much information on there which I think could be useful to people. And so what I'll do is I'll do a link and then I'll do another link. That thing. So if you've done the 11th hour comment and it doesn't get read out today, I'm not ignoring you. I'm going to leave it another week or so, and I'm going to gather any more comments on this extension on the driving time thing. And yeah, and I'll do it as a follow-up video. So we're going to skip over that today. I did one on my journeys, on do I ever use my journeys, future journeys, return loads, that kind of thing. I personally don't. I have done a video on how I will do you a link. I have done a video on what I find works better for me for getting the next job linked up. And then sometimes I don't tend to link up more than 2 jobs in one stage, because if you got a job and then you got a job after it lined up and you got a job after that lined up and the first job goes wrong, you're going to have to let 3 people down. I don't even like linking up 2, but then again, I also don't like sitting in a lay-by for 3/4 of an hour looking for my second job, so you kind of have to. And also what I tend to do is if I link 2 up, I tell the second guy, I ring him straight up, say, I'm going to put you in the picture, I've got a load on board, I'm dropping this here, and as soon as I drop this, I'll go and fetch yours. That way, if something goes wrong, you can ring them and say, remember I told you I was going to this place? Well, I've got there and it's shut. Or they're telling me I've got to wait for 2 hours. So at least they're in the picture when they book it, in which case they kind of know. They can't turn around and say, well, why didn't you tell me that? I wouldn't have used you. But anyway, the My Journeys thing. Actually, hold on a second, you can get me bins. Yeah, not really. I got these free gift. I got these. I was delivering some stuff on Friday morning, and the bloke turned around and said, he picked his glasses up and said, there you go. So they're not mine, mate. He said, have them anyway. Do I look like Neo, like the Matrix? Yeah, they don't help. Better. Right. See, on my eyesight, it's obviously getting worse, because normally I only need these if I record this in the afternoon or the evening. It is currently 9:15. Oh dear. Never mind. Comes to us all in the end. Rob Wade. He said we're based in Doncaster, but have a regular job every weekday afternoon from Newcastle back down to Leeds. He says I use the My Journeys icon and plug in. Hang on, shipper's notice. We basically, he says he does use it. He says, but I agree, going to from, it comes up with unnecessary and confusing alerts. So he's obviously got a way of making it work, but he says on the whole, no. Van on the Run, he said, I've never used them either. Although thinking about it, if you were going to Manchester, like you say, you could put Manchester, say someone like Stockport, and get only the jobs you want to see. That's the idea, but you just end up getting jobs from here, there, and everywhere. It needs work, that thing. And Lee Westcott says, is there any type of platform you can list a route so a job shipper can call you? Now, I assume that if you were not on the exchange, or as well as the exchange, you had your own end user customer and you regularly did a job from, say, London to Manchester, you would like to say, I'd like to put out there that I'm constantly in Manchester at, say, 11 o'clock in the morning, going south. Is there anyone who's got a job? Probably the exchange is the best one I know of, but if anyone knows any better platforms, please let us know. Right, we're straight to miscellaneous now then, so I've got to clean these. Prepared as always. Seasoned professional, me. I'm like one of those guys at the BBC, all linked up and ready to go. Miscellaneous. Urban Trucker. No, mate, he said we've done quite a few. We got a few. I've had to split it, but he's had some very. This is your man in the know. He's one of the wise guys, and he's done a few comments on some questions that you asked that I wasn't sure of. He says regarding the sat nav thing. He said, I worry about spending £500 on one to find out that it wasn't worth the money. He said, at the moment I'm using Google Maps and Waze and then checking any roads for my bridge map height. Right, I've got a new thing going on at the moment. I've looked it up on YouTube. And when I get the hang of it, I'm going to try and do one on basically how to use Waze or Google Maps as a lorry sat nav. Because there is a way around doing it, but I want to have a proper go at it myself before I tell you do it this way, and then everyone goes, yeah, that doesn't work. I've just hit a bridge. So give me a bit of time on it to try and get the hang of it. And I've got a little system which seems to be working. It tends to, the easy way is basically M roads and A roads for as far as you possibly get. And, because obviously with Waze, you can actually scroll through and it shows you all the roads you've got to use between now and then. So if I don't like the way I'm going, there is a way that you can add a stop. So you add the stop somewhere. I had to do one the other day, and I had to go from Dunstable, from the base, to Amersham. I know how to get to Amersham because I used to work Amersham Market. As a kid from the age of 6, I was cleaning other market traders' vans. And it took me through the countryside. I ended up doing the sidebar. And it took me through the most ridiculous route. And I'm thinking, I know how to get here. You go through Ashridge, through Berkhamsted, through Cheshire, and through Amersham. And the thing is, after I went through this tiny, windy country road, it took me bang out to an A road. So it wasn't like the actual base was in the middle of the countryside, which happens sometimes. And so, but I am working on that. Stick with me and I'll see what I can do. Ian Salisbury said, only just come across road laws, trying it for the motorhome, been good so far. Development department, if you're reading this comment, add camping, caravan, RV option. It's okay. Everyone I've tried so far is okay, and I haven't bought an expensive one, but I'm frightened to buy an expensive one. I spoke to our truck driver, like Harry in the 18-ton. He says, I use Waze. He said, if I was in your vehicle, he said, once you've been doing it a little while, you understand things. He said, if I was in your vehicle, I'd go anywhere. I'm like, yeah, okay. Better driver than me. Most people are better everything than me, in fairness. Van on the run. He says, I'm amazed someone hasn't bought an HGV sat-nav for the smartphone which rivals a standalone TomTom Garmin unit, even if I had to pay for it. There is nothing a standalone unit hasn't got that isn't a smartphone's hardware. Now, this is a very interesting point. The reason you're paying this kind of money is because you're paying for the screen, you're paying for the battery, you're paying for the GPS, you're paying for their thing. If only someone like Waze could actually turn around and go, right, we're going to actually work out where the weights are and where the bridges are and the heights are, and so say people like me would, Waze is free, but 20 quid a month or 10 quid a month, and you can have it with all the bits and pieces and regular updates. I'll have it because Waze is the best for traffic updates. So you drive, you're thinking, hang on a second, this is putting me off here. Why is it putting me off here? And as you just come off, you see a massive queue of traffic. You're like, well, that saved me some time. So coming back to the urban trucker. Right, he says, regarding the person asking about the maintenance service agreement for the O licence, he said you do need it. It's called a G79 form. When you apply for the O licence, they check out your maintenance supplier to make sure they're a trustworthy, legitimate company. If the maintenance supplier has been in trouble with the traffic commissioner or linked to companies that have had their O licence revoked due to poor maintenance, defect issues or MOT failures, you may not be awarded the O licence. So I suppose the reason I always said it's not that important is because I've always gone with companies that I know are legitimate. And I've always, we've got 8-week inspections, I've got sheets, I've got MOT sheets, I've got paperwork for every truck. Because you've got to. Take your own license away, I can't run trucks. But yeah, so thanks very much for the update on that one. He says, about the subject, is there a test to apply for an operator's licence? He said, I think the person may be getting confused with getting their wires crossed between O licence and transport manager exam, where there's no test for an O licence application. You may have to show that you're a competent person with some details experience of the industry. again, I kind of just saying for mine, it was fine. And the question about having a sole trader, yeah, a guy said, can you have a sole tractor unit on the CX? He said, I have seen traction work posted. It seems to be in pockets like the northeast, Middlesbrough, Newcastle areas seem to have a lot of type of work. But I'd say that CX is not the best place to be looking if you're looking for traction work. You're better off contacting transport companies directly. Just Google any of the big transport companies' names and they will have work for you, I guarantee it. Like you say, Pete, and the best truck that to have as a CX owner is an 18-tonne. 18-tonne, curtain side, tuck under tail lift. It's the best vehicle to run on the CX, but it's involved. If you don't want to get involved, Luton, curtain side tail lift. My opinion, just my humble opinion, that's all it is. Steve Cunningham. Right. He says, you overcooked 11 hours. Seriously, mate, get a grip. You're an owner driver. The DVSA will hammer you if you need to renew your O licence. Best of luck, not knocking you. I did it once, and I did it once on 2 days after the rules come into regulation, and then just went, I'm not playing this game, this is ridiculous. And I've gone back to the old system, 2 jobs a knock, not taking a job more than, say, 180 miles away from base, because you know that if you do, you're only going to become straight home. I hope I am actually applying for another O licence, because we want to set up a second base. If it's inside the current traffic area, you can have it on your existing O licence. So say, for example, I wanted a base in Dunstable and a base in Northampton. They're both in the same traffic area. You can have it as a major additional change to your O licence. If it's outside the traffic area, and we're looking kind of Coventry way, it's in a different traffic area, so you have to apply for a separate O licence. So that's what I'm in the process of trying to do right now. Waiting for the letter to come through from where we're going to park it, and then I can go through the application. I'll let you know how it goes. Ian Merrick. Because we're talking about the HGV driver shortage, which will also probably come up with the stuff on the 11th hour. He said, you're right, there isn't a shortage. I saw a few months ago there are 80,000 qualified HGV drivers no longer in haulage, but the headlines are quoting 50k salaries and £1,000 bonuses from Tesco's. He says, I'm seeing ex-HGV drivers on Facebook making inquiries about getting back on the road. It seems supply and demand is starting to do its job, but it will take time to fill the shelves. Be interesting to see the impact of the HGV strike on the 23rd of August. I didn't know there was one. Oh, my guys don't got a strike. That'd be bad, wouldn't it? Well, bad for me. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one here. Yeah, interesting. And like I say, I don't think there is an HGV shortage. I think there's just a shortage of people that want to pay the HGV drivers the money they're worth. And coming down to the shortage, Jeff Seymour says, I was told by the agency when IR35 came in, we lost a lot of drivers. And Jim Bob also says, if they lower taxes and so many deductions on your salary payslip, then the pay is fine. The only thing that PPL can do is apply for a limited company or self-employed, but not sure how that will work with the new IR35 rules. What's the solution, Pete? Question. Right, this is a question I'm throwing out to you guys, because I hear this a lot. And it's to do with the fact that the driver shortage is to do with IR35. Now, as usual, I'm totally clueless and totally uninformed. And I only tend to inform myself of the things that I need to be, I need to know about. So when I was on the market, I'd listen to the weather forecast and ignore everything else. And now I'm driving, I just tend to just drive and listen to music. But this IR35 thing, as far as I understand it, it was something to do with, something to do with the Uber? And it's the fact that, or it's something to do with the fact that you say you're a subcontractor, but if you do the same work for the same person every day, you're not a subcontractor, you're an employee, and therefore you're entitled to things like holiday and sick pay. That's probably totally wrong. But if you guys out there, and I'm sure many of you do know about the IR35, if you could stick some stuff in the comments, because it's easier for me to do it that way rather than actually have to make an effort and research it, and then I'll have a quick look into it, and maybe we'll do one on this IR35 and see if we can get to the bottom of it. Jim Bob, hope that'll answer your question, mate. And Ian Merrick, coming back to it again, he says, because I read out the idea of the fact that, he says, you can do this HGV buddy days where you can actually, someone will pay you 50 quid to basically sit in your truck and you drive around all day and they ask you questions and they get to see how it works. He said it doesn't work for the pinball machine that is a CX. And then of course he goes, so there is this thing, $49.99 truck HGV buddy days. He said, I'm shopping around Facebook, Twitter at the moment, so I presume if you Google it, you put it in Facebook, Twitter. He also says, regarding the books, he says, what about an audio book? He's paying your readership. Audiobook for the Fantastic. This is the new one. Always get that the wrong way, right? Available to buy on Amazon. I tried doing an audio book once, Ian. I'm not great at reading out loud. And I think they're probably... Anyone know anything about recording audio books? Kind of thing you're not going to get on this channel. Well, you might, I don't know. Yeah, and I tended to go off piece and start explaining it rather than just reading it and go, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. Yeah, maybe. It's time. There's not an awful lot of free time at the moment, what with this and with the running the lorries and cutting the grass and cleaning the cars and, you know, yeah, that kind of fills it all. But yeah, an audiobook would be a good way. I used to do the audiobooks, and then I kind of stopped. But yeah, it is a handy way, like, you know. I think I found about audiobooks is that you have to have certain times. I used to start listening, when I started listening to them in the morning, and I found that by 10 o'clock I was tired. Whereas if I just listen to music, it stopped. So, but yeah, it's an idea. Maybe. I'd like you to read it. I'd like you to hear it because I think it's good. Not even worried about the dove. I just think it's good. Ren Baum. He says, Peter, thank you for spending time making the videos. My pleasure, mate. No problem. It really helped me. A couple of questions. I'm a solo trader. Have you any idea how to make company ID? And do you need tests, vaccines, travelling forms if you're travelling from Northern Ireland and back to the UK load? Can't really help you with Northern Ireland thing. John, he's our guy on that one because I'm standard national. I've never really crossed the water. The only time I've ever crossed the water is to go to Wales. But as for company ID, I have never got around to doing it. But Van on the Run says, Google Photo ID people. Easy to use, designer on their website and cheap enough. Only used mine twice in 18 months though. That's kind of why I never really done it. I got the kid to knock me up one. You tend to only very rarely, particularly in the trucks, it's saying must have company ID. You used to get it a lot more in vans, particularly when you're going to airports and stuff like that. But give it a bash, Rembel. Hopefully this Google Photo ID people might do the thing. There's normally one on there and they'll actually design it and they post it. It's about 20 quid. I still find quite expensive for a small plastic card, but there you go. Ranger 10-4. He said, great stuff. I've been made redundant and I have some monies. I'm looking at going self-employed and driving my own van. Should I go down this route and avoid it or find a job that provides a van? I really don't know what to do. In today's world, is driving a mug's game. Well, all I can say is I've done okay out of it. I've done an awful lot better than I was. I was on the floor when I was being a market trader, and since jumping in the vans, it's worked out okay for me. It is not a magic wand. You get out what you put in. No one is going to knock on your door and give you £1 million. If you wanted my recommendation, I would say go self-employed and get your own van. It tends to me, if they give you the van and they give you the work, it basically, they say you can earn this much, but then you get so much in the form of deductions that it doesn't work out. Having said that, there's a mob out there at the moment. I'm going to do a video on this for, like, you know, because I want to get more into the questions about, well, people are still working Hermes and people are still working Amazon and they seem very happy. So, yeah. But if you want my recommendation, I'd say CX, loop and curtain-side tail lift. There you go. Florin Bidanu says, hi Pete, I've followed you for a while. Do you think a van with high mileage can be a problem for the CX or a CX job? And Kevin Ridley says, is someone thinking of getting into this? What van truck should I be looking for and what sort of age? Just get the best you can. You get the best you can afford. I would always say don't spend a ton of money. You can get yourself a tidy van. You can get yourself a tidy long wheelbase for around about 3k. You want to join the CX with the most basic package, sole trader, no, I'm not limited, get the cheapest one you can. That way, if it doesn't work out for you, and it doesn't work out for everybody, you haven't done a lot. You'll never get your money back from the CX. You probably can get some kind of a refund from the insurance. Business Choice Direct I recommend, but I recommend them because I recommend for two reasons. Firstly, they pay me, thank you. And secondly, we use them. So I'd rather recommend things that I use because that way can't come unstuck, can I? Like, you know, people can't go, you told me to use them. So, well, I use them. What do you want to say? Yeah, but I would say just get the best you can. Sometimes age is a category on whether you're going to get the job, but not normally. It's normally down to how far away you are, how much your quote is, and what your feedback is. Age is kind of, as long as it's tidy, as long as you're clean and tidy, and the van's clean and tidy, and it's not rusty, and it hasn't got lights hanging off, because then you're just inviting a tug from the DVLA and DVSA anyway. Everyone's getting too confused. But yeah, I would just say get the best one you can, and then get started, and then you work the rest out later. Jim Bob, he says, if I have enough money and buy my own truck, can I join business in partnership with your company? Thanks in the future. Jim, I'd love to take you, mate, but I've actually got a partner. It's me and Alan are already in partnership. So, but if you wanted to have a go and you wanted to bounce on your own, have a crack. You know where I am. I'm more than happy to hand you advice. Sorry, my friend. He pictures the post on that one. Christian Barrett says, hi Pete, sorry I didn't get the factoring company you're using. Can you write it on a reply comment, please? I'll try and do that, Christian. I'll do this on the Q&A. It's called Skipton's. If you do actually get to Skipton's, if you ring them up, please mention my name, because again, theoretically, they're supposed to give me a kickback, but they haven't yet. Peter Coe from Vango Transport, but Skipton's are the factoring company we use. They're very good. They are. They're actually, once you get in a system, you can liaise with them. They're working well for us. Ideally, you don't want to use a factoring company at all. The CX jobs don't really like factoring companies because they keep getting letters saying you haven't paid us when they have, which is why you want to, if you're going to have a factoring company, you want to do your own credit control, because that way you can keep on top of it. And of course, it's much easier if you can just keep on top of your own, but then you've actually got to do that 2 months without dough, which isn't always that easy. Lisa Mead, he says, why don't you work on 2 or 3 platforms so you can take 2 loads at the same time? Co-loading tends to be painful. And we have tried other platforms. I think we got returnloads.net. I think we contracted in for a year. We're paying about 50 quid a month. I don't think we got a single load off them. So we just use the CX. There's enough work comes off the CX, plus our own customers, which is slowly growing. I found all the other platforms not brilliant. Basically, they might be cheaper to join, but the work ain't there, and you get what you pay for at the end of the day. So. Right, domain name guy says, can I do a video showing the CX screen? Where's my pen? CX screen live, but delayed a day or so all jobs are covered. So I think what he's trying to say is, can I do it so that I can actually show you what job? That's not a pen. What's that? I think it's one of them Dobby things for an iPad. Can't write with that. I say, prepared as usual, just like the BBC. I think what he's asking me to do is do one. I'll tell you what I'll do, because I've got the 2 cameras now. So I'll do one. I go, right, I'm here. I'm now going to show you where I am, what time of day it is, what jobs are on here, where they're going, and how much I've spoken and why. Hopefully that would be a help. And if that were, and then again, we might have to do some follow-ups on that one. Follow-up videos seem to be the thing now. Tiffioso Cornwall, he says, Pete, he said, is it okay if you pick up jobs, say you're in Edinburgh and you've got to go to Norwich and you want to deliver to meet someone and say, basically what he's saying, say for example, there's a job, a truck job coming from Manchester to London, and there's also another truck job going from London to Manchester. Is it possible to meet the vans halfway, swap the gear over, and the other 2 go back? He says, van on the run says, I believe that's called transhipping and it's frowned upon. The thing is, it depends. I know, like John from Ireland, what he does is he gets the ferry across from Ireland, then he meets another guy who comes down from Edinburgh and meets him kind of Liverpool way, and then he gives the Edinburgh guy the stuff from Ireland that's got to go back to Scotland, and the Edinburgh guy gives him the stuff that's got to go down to London. I have also had it before where I've had to meet a driver or a small van and take stuff on. I've done it, you meet in car parks. I've done it before where I've met a driver at MK Truck Stop, and we had to take it off of his tail lift and onto my tail lift. So you back the 2 vans up together with the 2 tail lifts, and you can just ferry it straight across. It depends. Sometimes, I might actually do a separate one on this one, but sometimes, they want your registration. So if you have to go in, I will do you a separate one on that one. Can't write that with that. I normally do a little star, you see. But it doesn't. What are you doing? Oh, fantastic! No, star of the show. Get out. Oh, otherwise. It depends. Is the answer. If you want to be picked up as a hot shot, it tends to be just you. Or what they might turn around and say, you can ask them, and I think 9 times out of 10 they'd say no. But if they ask you deliberately to do it, then yes, you can, and we'll go. Yeah, we'll go into that in some more detail in a separate video, mate. MAK says, starting from scratch, he's hoping to do the whole thing, theory, class 1, class 2. He hopes to do it all within 3 to 4 months. Good luck, my friend. Hope it works out for you. And AB, he's just done one on pallet He says, I did one on how to move a pallet truck. It's an old video, but helped me massively. Always struggled. Now it's so easy. Thank you. Mate, that's lovely. Anything I can do to help just makes me happy. I should probably update that pallet truck video I may be doing, because I'm doing it, I think I did it with an empty pallet. And I think it might be better if I actually show how it works with a proper full pallet. So I will do that one day. Now I've got the new cameras and stuff, it might be easier. Finally, in conclusion, Van on the Run says, you know, the road trip to Wales, there and back, long day, average speed check. See, why are there average speed check zones? Why can't there ever be like a really good speed check zone or really poor speed check zone? It's not even average. Cameras don't really work. He says, it always makes me smile when I see slow children ahead. So presumably, yeah, that's sort of he says there should be a comma. Subject to which, the book there, see? Shall I go on, Mum? It's got a comma. It didn't have a comma originally, and people were saying, yeah, that just sounds wrong. Shall I go on, Mum? So I put the comma in. Also available to buy on Amazon, fantastic read. And finally, Steve Campbell, who did come down. Sorry, I missed you. Yes, that is my phone number. You can ring me on it if you'd like. It would be nice to speak to you. You do enough comments. It's that horse box I was driving last week had. Thank you, mate. Cheers. Delivery drivers, wonderful people. That horse box I was driving last week had an old style taco. I left my chart in the bin at Costa Northampton Services. Steve Campbell, the reformed character, mate. If there was ever a leopard that's never about to change his spots, it's you, isn't it? Right, on that note, looking at the camera, thank you very much. Your man at the beginning, still trying to get the angle looking inside the phone. And it's good night from me. Yeah, that's it, Q&A. Hope you have a wonderful Sunday. It's nowhere ain't so bright, but at least it ain't so warm at night times now. And onwards and upwards. Take care. Take money.